few of these slides are going to be a demonstration of theories. Okay, so in your notes, go back to that number that you had at the beginning and just keep that in mind. But as you go through this, you don't have to track all of this. I'll tell you what you really want to take notes on in terms of conceptualizing as a team, what we want to be aware of. But this is one of my most favorite resources. It's the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University. They're the ones that built that GIF file, that GIF image, where it had the working memory and executive function relationship with information. So that's where I got that. And they really see executive functions in 3 domains. So whoever put 3, you are correct, at least partly. They see it as being working memory, inhibitory control, and cognitive flexibility. And they only look at the cognitive skills, the cognitive aspect, the thinking aspect of executive function. They don't look at the behavioral side. So keep that in mind. Okay, so that's one lens on executive functions. I love this perspective because it keeps it really simple and it keeps it authentic to where everything starts. And it all starts in the thinking process. Right? It doesn't start in the behavior. Behavior is what you observe. You have to back that up all the way into how a student is thinking and processing information. So you all, as a school, utilize Brown's model in terms of your tier 1, tier 2 intervention plan and data gathering. So you have an evaluation that uses Brown's model, and Brown's model is based on a theory, right? That he started to load questions and how those questions fall into different categories. And these are his categories, and he's packaged it, and he's produced questionnaires that can be used to evaluate student performance. So activation, focus, effort, emotion, memory, action. So, and he's kept the description of them really clear and you'll find unique because it's just one word. But again, just understand the theories of these 2 models. We're not going to get into that for this conversation, but I want you to know this. This is back in 2001. So Russell Barkley, a renowned researcher and practitioner and public speaker in the world of ADHD and executive functioning. If you don't know his name, you do now, and most of you have read something about him. He's published 30 some odd books. So a well-known figure. He also has an executive function rating scale, and he's gone through the same process as Brown. He's come up with different terminology, different factors that relate to executive function skills or executive function, right? And he's saw them in 5. So those that had a 5, you are correct. Oh, by the way, how many do we have here? Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those that had a 6, you are correct. So there's 5 categories here, and I use the Barkley scale in our work, just because I know I enjoyed how it looked. It used really self-determination in all the factors, like a self-management, self-organization, and how that starts with an internal process around identity, right? And how identity interacts with time and space and people, and internal versus external motivation factors. So, but there's no rules here. So this is another category. So I'm not going to go through all this, but just understand that these are theoretical perspectives that have built into a conceptual understanding around how the mind works and how it can be categorized in terms of action and behaviors. So what we are going to look at is we're going to look at Dawson and Guer's research, or not research, what they've put together in terms of what executive functions are. I'm going to do that because there's a lot of information out there that relates to their findings, and it blends nicer. And if we were to make decisions past a tier 1 or into the classroom, this gives us a better sense of a foundation that we can build on easier. That's all. Okay, so that's my justification, kind of keeping us on this perspective. Smart but Scattered is one of their tried and true resources, and maybe something that, as a future reference, we geek out on as well, chapter by chapter, as we build this out as a team. But I love how they looked at this in 2 categories. They look at this as a thinking skills, cognitive based, right? And then doing skills, action, behavior. And they look, so did anybody come up with 11? Any 11s in the room? No, I don't think, I don't know if I saw 11. If you had 11, you are also correct. So, and there's also 8. 8 is a classic number. I don't know why that just seems to come out as being a classic number of 8 cognitive executive functions. Either way, I have to laugh because there's no one answer. So that's the complexity of the mind, the complexity of the brain, and how research over time leads into practicum-based or implementations, and how schools just ebb and flow with initiatives and trends over time, right? And now we're talking executive functions, and these are the 11 we're going to talk about. 11's in this exercise, it's going to go to 8, so bear with me, but we got 11 to start with. Okay, so in your notes, keep in mind the difference between thinking and doing. Okay, about to jump into things. So first one is planning. Right? Every one of these slides is going to have I'm going to say a trigger, or I should say an activator in a way. It's going to be a non-verbal working memory reference. Right? So in this case, a lot of these are pulled from a awesome source, EF's The Rescue. This is the Plan Man. Right? So a lot of schools, a lot of middle schools, a lot of elementary schools have followed this model where they'll build the executive function skills, or they'll talk about them and they'll mirror them with an image that students can build that relationship. As we can all imagine, that helps tremendously in building learning and understanding. Okay, organization, classic. Right, there's 2 aspects of organization that get debated in here. Right, there's the physical organization, what does organization looks like. But there's also the organization of thought, right? Those in the room. The reason I love note taking is it's a skill around organization of thought through the writing process, right? And if you do it enough, students get better and better and better and better at organizing their thoughts on paper. Also the writing process. Writing is not a physical product. It's a mental product that produces itself on paper. So training, understanding the organization of thoughts relates to the development of a paragraph, development of 2 paragraphs, development of 5 paragraphs. So organization has the mental process, but it's also organization in terms of physical environment, obviously. So there's that, we have to kind of see it both ways. Time management. So a couple terms that kind of come out of this is time blindness, temporal awareness. Temporal meaning time. There's temporal horizon. That's a fun term. That just means how far into the future can I see? How far into the future can I plan? So time management and planning, temporal horizon. There's this interplay, of course, around what time is it, and who am I trying to be, right? Working memory, an awesome place for us to spend time talking about, do a whole workshop on it. I'm going to give you a little bit of a deep dive after I get through this on working memory. So stay tuned, but working memory is significantly important in all of this. Because without it, a lot of other things don't happen. So working memory can be a big deal, especially if it's not supported. So I'm moving fast. That's okay. You'll have access to these slides later on. Don't think I'm going to test you on your notes in terms of writing everything down, but track the terms, track an awareness of what they are. This is Remy the elephant. Elephant, of course, representing memory. Okay, metacognition. That's a cool word. That's a cool term. It's really the thinking about thinking, right? What's going on in my mind? I go back to the autobiographical planning in a way, but there's this process around reflecting. The true problem solving has a lot to do with reflecting on the past, understanding what's going on, successes, strengths, weaknesses, and then planning for the future. But I am always thinking about, my mind's always racing with what's with my own thoughts. This is the response inhibition, also impulse control. it has everything to do with just being able to cognitively be aware so that I can stop and then think, right? Stop, think, and evaluate. Am I moving in the right direction? Am I not moving in the right direction? Am I making the right decision? What should I be doing right now? What time is it and where am I supposed to be? What time is it? Who am I supposed to be? Emotional control. Emotibot is funny. This is yeah, so as students get through middle school, this is one thing, right? The classic ADHD inattentive profile, not inattentive, hyperactive profile, like the outward demonstration of hyperactivity starts to either show itself because it's now more antisocial, or kids start to really work on it, right? They become more self-control. They're working so hard to keep themselves in check, and the cost of that is stress and an impact on working memory. They go home and they just fall apart because they're tapped out. Put it all in on the cord during the 6 hours of the school day. Sustained attention, and you can kind of see that in terms of nonverbal signs, right? Distractibility, wandering eyes, looking around, fatigue, boredom. Sustaino, the great. Task initiation. You can make note of this, but one of the most powerful ways to help any student to get better at task initiation is deciding on when. Obviously the next thing is, what am I doing when, right? But practicing the when. I start at, I initiate at what time? And the second part of that is, where am I? At time, at my desk, whatever, but task initiation. Flexibility. This is being able to go with the flow. We're joking. There's a part of us all that loves education in a way, because it's the opposite of flexibility. It gives you structure and it gives you boundaries. It gives you clear lines. It gives you a schedule, right? So as a teacher, we kind of got into it because because we probably enjoyed that aspect of it, right? I got a schedule that I can follow. It's predictable. There's a safety to it. There's a rhythm to it. There's a predictability to it. And then when someone tries to change it, I get inflexible. But some part about it, we enjoy the rigidity of that. But so it's always this dance between being flexible and rigid, creating structure, creating schedules, creating predictability, and then being flexible in the changes of life, right? Goal-directed persistence. This is an important part of of most of our middle schools, is to try and understand their own identity around what are my goals, who am I trying to be, right? And it gets more complicated when I'm managing a lot of distractions, identity challenges, overscheduled kind of life. So I'm not really sure who I'm trying to be. So I'm not really sure how to compartmentalize and structure and prioritize the aspects of who I'm trying to be. So it's a great place to talk about a lot of middle schools. I do a lot with the freshmen as they enter high school. Because, I can't really be persistent on something if I don't have a goal related to it, right? So there's a goal comes first, right? I have to see into that. Okay. So I'm going to have you quick mind dump. So here's what I'm going to ask you. On a separate sheet, I'm going to trust you, right? If you're a student in my class, let's say if you want to take on this challenge, find a separate sheet and list the 11, as many as you can. Working memory challenge, short-term working memory. Ready, set, go.